to a new episode of Beautifully Made, and I am super excited to have our February exhibiting artist with us today on the program, Tom Wachunas. Tom, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.
Oh, yes, I am so honored for one. I have to say that you approached and asked if you could have an exhibit at the gallery at the shop, and it is beautiful and I love it, and I really feel honored to be able to show the community your work. It stops people in their tracks, and I've had so many people from all over Northeast Ohio ask about it.
Great. Well, I'm tickled to hear that. Thank you for that.
Sure. So I would love for you to do a quick introduction about yourself and tell everybody what you do.
Um, okay, Tom Watchun is here. I last This past May, 2024, I did retire after 17 years of being adjunct faculty in the art history department at Kent State University, the Stark campus. Um, uh, yes, I'm an active artist still, and I'm also a writer. I love writing about and art, commenting on it. Sometimes as a critic, sometimes as a just a colleague artist, um, getting enthused about another show or other artists' work. And I'm still very much involved in writing about art and making. And now that I'm retired. Well, yeah, I have devoted a lot more time to reading and to just thinking and viewing as many art shows as I can locally. I
Yes.
mean, most of my concerns are in the general Stark County, Canton, Massillon corridor, um, and that's what I've been primarily involved in. And I really felt like I missed showing my work, and so it was just um, a wonderful response on your part when I outright asked you, "Hey, you got any slots open? Let me show my work."
No, I love that.
So, yeah. Um, so yeah, I'm very much still, you know, that's very much in my life, making, looking at, and writing about art.
Yes. And I ran across your writing in the Stark Artist Group's Facebook page. That's where I first kind of was introduced to your work and then found out that your blog, ArtWach, a little play on your name, was available, and then started reading some of the critiques and the visitations that you've had at multiple shows and galleries. And that's kind of how I found you.
Yeah, the blog is now in its 16th year,
Oh my
which is
God.
hard for me to believe. I mean, I started it after I'd been at Kent for about a year, something like that. And it's still going. I don't post as many entries as I did up until a few years ago, but it's still very active, and I still have every intention of sustaining the blog. So.
Good, good. So, how long have you been an artist? Because I feel like you have been an artist in many forms.
Yeah, well, you're right about that. Many forms, many media. To be really serious, and this is no exaggeration, I just, I think I've been an artist since about um, fourth grade.
Hmm.
Making my pictures on my terms, and just expressing some original, well, what I would think would be original thoughts, but my own expressions, and for many years, through mostly painting,
Hmm.
two-dimensional painting on paper, cardboard, canvas. After I went to started college, I started stretching canvases, and I was a painter all the way through college and beyond. So, but it got serious as early as fourth grade.
Yeah, I can
I
relate to that.
I was dissatisfied with coloring books and art classes in grade school, and I just started messing with it on my own at home on my terms. So.
That's great. And I love when you're talking about medium because we were pleasantly presented a beautiful kind of like review of over 2 decades of work that you had created. And to see the different substrates and things that you have used over time to create your pieces, you really do a lot of mixed media. I love that you brought up cardboard. Do you have a favorite medium?
You know, that's a tough one to ask. In the last just couple of years, I've kind of flip-flopped. I returned to working, incorporating cardboard, corrugated board. But somewhere in there too, and again, within the last 5, maybe 10 years, I got fascinated with fabric,
Yes.
clothing, the material that's foldable and I can wrinkle it, I can stretch it, I can crumple it up, but generally then stiffen it, make it hard. It
Hmm.
looks soft and folded and malleable, but to the touch, it's more like, stone. So I wanted a sculptural kind of treatment going on, and then paint on top of that, maybe, or
Yes.
collage on top of that. But
Hmm.
so there lately, there's been this, I'm kind of dealing with both, depending on the idea or the particular concept I'm embracing on a particular work. But so just a kind of democratic distribution of these materials, and then of course, there's the found object thing,
Yes.
adhering things I didn't make, incorporating that within the textures of the fabric and or the torn cardboard or something of that nature. So.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up the commentary that you infuse to the pieces that you find or repurpose electronics, and just it's amazing the story that they tell that you've developed
Yeah.
using that piece as the base.
Yeah, yeah. And uh, it's a way of maybe inviting someone to perceive a commonly encountered material or object, but giving it a whole new context, or try to, use it as a symbol of some underlying emotional slash spiritual messaging that I want it to impart.
Mhm.
So take it out of its ordinary setting. And I always did love that word. I don't know when as a culture we started using that vocabulary, but repurposed. I
Yeah.
I kind of like that. What's the purpose of clothing? What's the purpose of packing material or cardboard? And we're going to change its purpose or open it up, repurpose it for something
Right.
completely different. But that material never forgets its original purpose or its original use or function. And I depend on that for the viewer to try and make a connection, like not forgetting what it was, why is it here now? What's it for now? And then the two can be kind of melded together, which, I'm open to the possibility that the viewer will kind of make their own conclusions. I'm not trying to bang you on the head with only one meaning or one message. I want to invite a kind of open-minded approach, engagement on the part of the viewer. So, but I
Yeah.
am very fascinated with found objects of different kinds, if they're appropriate to what my emotional or spiritual state is when I'm making the work. So.
Yeah. And I was just going to ask about your inspiration, because sometimes for me, when someone says, I never thought of that, that's almost like one of the biggest compliments I could get. So, is there a place or a source of inspiration that you seem to always, start from?
Well, that is that's such a loaded question to me. And I, and it's true. I mean, sometimes when artists direct that, and when I read about other artists talking about their inspiration,
Hmm.
I do encounter this a lot, and you probably have too. Like, I don't look for inspiration. Inspiration finds me, which is,
Definitely.
it sounds a little bit like a cliche and a kind
Right.
of a cutesy. But you know what? There's a lot of truth in that.
I
And
know.
and for me, inspiration is pretty consistently grounded in my sense of relationship with God.
Yes.
Okay. And then the many, many layers and applications that can have. And as time goes on, the older I get, I'm finding more and more grounding in biblical content, whether old, stories or the narrative that we call the Old Testament,
Yeah.
or the Gospels and the appearance of Christ and the establishment of his community, his purpose, what we call the New Testament. Okay. Um, it's all of the same reason and purpose and meaning to me, whether you're opening the first words of the Bible in the beginning God made, or in the beginning the earth was. Okay, fine, all the way to the end. It's all fair game as far as I'm where I want to focus, or where I'm being drawn. That will vary in season to season. But that's the groundwork. And then many times on private prayer and meditation, yes, a visual image, an image or a thing will come to mind. It's just that's what I mean by it comes to me.
Yeah.
Now, how can I share that effectively uh, in a visual work, a picture, an object, or both? What I call my mixed media assemblage, that kind of thing, um, and take it from there. So, long periods of time can happen between one piece and another. I don't pressure myself to be in the studio 6 hours a day, and if I'm not, like, I'm not being a serious artist. No. So there can
Mhm.
be periods of time when I'm just more about reflection and reading and gratitude for that. Um, but something happens, and I don't understand necessarily how or when or why it happens when it does, but it does. I have to follow up by making a work of art. So
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
show we have up at Beautifully now is a range. It does cover a number of seasons, and um, that do span about 20, I don't know, 20, 25 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Representative of the different seasons and focuses that I went through uh, in that time block. So.
Yeah. But there's a consistency through all of those years that you
Well, I'm
have.
hoping that's yeah, and I'm definitely, and to me that's a good thing. I mean,
Yes.
a good sign that there is a consistency of content or implied content.
Hmm.
Some more specific and clear references to Scripture, the Bible. Some a little more subtle or symbolic, but all of the same source, all of the same root. So.
Yeah. So all of these years, what's been your biggest challenge being an artist?
You know, and that's a great question too, and very loaded. I just, I want, I want to stay trusting of my own intuition, and to have faith that my vision is going to be somehow engaging or meaningful to another viewer. It's not like I'm setting out to say and do only one thing by making this one piece, but at the same time, I want to feel that I'm faithful to the nature, the essence of my message, and that it will it will be somehow meaningful or engaging for the viewer. To have confidence in that, um, and not give up hope or faith in the fact that I really do believe that God can communicate through art. He can.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, and that's not the case for every work of art ever made, and it's not the case for every artist necessarily. I understand that. I'm just I want to stay very connected and related to my relationship with God
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
making my art. Um,
Yeah.
Now, this is not to say that every piece I make has something to do with my relationship with God. No, sometimes I make commentaries on worldly things, but from the attitude of someone who loves God and knows that it's a mutual relationship. It's not just an abstract belief.
Right.
So when I do veer off into, some territories, some might call political, some might call fun, it's still driven by knowing who and what I am in relationship to what in the world am I looking at.
Right.
So I hope that makes sense. But
It does make sense. Yeah. And I think that also the communication that someone expects to hear from a spiritual feeling and being, that's interpreted many ways.
yeah,
So I think
great.
that that can be infused even in your political message or your fun message, or I'm
Yeah,
doing air quotes,
yeah,
those different pieces still could carry, that base, that general, inspiration and feeling and where your work derives from. So I agree. There's a lot to be said of having that as your source, your core, and then having your message shared in different ways that I I wish that I had your slideshow so I could show all the pictures that you shared, because you started from your very beginning until some very recent work, and it was just fascinating to see. And then during your opening reception, I had a friend, mutual friend, share that you were also a musician, and so I played your music
yeah.
that I
Which
found on
totally
Apple Music.
you knock my socks off when you did that. Total surprise, unexpected.
Yeah, and it was beautiful. And it was
Thank
just
you.
stunning to hear that on top of seeing the visual work and then knowing your written work. I mean, you're just so diversified in all of your talent. And we really are very lucky to have you here in Stark County
Well,
sharing that
that
with
you're very
everyone.
kind. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I think that there's your seasons of, if your hands are in the paint and in the fabric, that's great. But then we're blessed with hearing your views on other people's work and your, sharing of galleries and work around town and Northeast Ohio. And then yeah, I'll definitely share the link to that music, because you can hear Spare Changes. Is that correct? Is that
That's the name of the album, yeah.
yeah.
And it's also, I think, one of the songs, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That goes back way back to 75. Unbelievable.
See,
1975, I know.
that's
Um,
incredible. Oh, that's
there's
awesome.
and those were in my those songs were from my hippie long hair art student days. I did the album right after graduating, getting my master's at Ohio State, and there. But when I walked into the gallery and you had been playing that, it came in on a song and I hadn't heard the line in years. There's a line in one of the songs, and it seems, it was so sweet of you to decide, let's have that as some atmosphere or background. But there's a line in one of the songs
Uh-huh.
that just knocked me down, and it said how to hear it in this place with that work on the walls. And I'm singing the song to a lost, okay, lover,
Uh-huh.
a lost
Uh-huh.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like we're parting ways. Um, but the line was, "I know God's Son is the only one who can help you now to see." And I thought, in the song, I wrote that for the attention of some young woman.
Right.
But now it's ironic, you know.
Wow.
It's like it was a line written to myself.
Right.
And by the way, I think people might know this, but the work that you have on this that we put up in the gallery, and when I say work of the last 20, 25 years, yeah, it's all work done in Ohio.
Yes.
Okay, after, um, but I had lived in New York City for 14 years and
Right.
in Miami, but I don't have any of that work. And then when I came back to Ohio at the end of 1991, I didn't make another work of art for like 8 or 9 years.
I can't believe that. You shared that.
8 or 9 years had passed. Now I was writing about art
Mm-hmm.
and getting published in a few different magazines, whatever, but I wasn't making any. So all that stuff represents me making art, but not until about the year 2000,
Right.
something like that. After a hiatus, I hadn't made art for 8 or 9 years after coming back to Ohio from New York. There are
Mm-hmm.
many reasons for that. That's a whole nother story. But um, so yeah, I'm just so happy that you helped me hang that and select that
Oh, Oh.
that group of pieces because it does tell a pretty consistent story of my life in Ohio as an artist but after all my art making of years before. So
And it's called Spiritual Tableau. We have the show name.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So if anyone is interested in having you show in their gallery or contacting you, is there a best way somebody can do that, Tom?
Yeah, they can. The other thing is, uh, if you my blog, it's called ArtWach. It's one word, but it's watch without the T, so it's ArtWach.
Yes.
So it's www.artwatch.blogspot.com. That's the site, okay? The platform for my writing. So you can leave comments there, but I don't mind telling people my email too if they want to make further inquiries or comments. It's I'm Tom Wachunas, and the email is twachunas, one word, TWACHUNAS at yahoo.com. And I don't
Perfect.
mind releasing that to anyone who's interested or wants to maintain or start some new contacts. Plus, I have a Facebook page,
Yeah.
um, and basically, I use Facebook to announce whenever I put up a new blog post, and I'll run some photos. Or in that blog post can be, more often about somebody else's work or some other show. But when I make a new work or new series of works, I've often done posts that inform people of that, and that's via Facebook.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to message me on Facebook, they can do that too. I'm open to all possibilities.
That's great. And I'll make sure all of these links are also in the show notes so they're easily accessible. So,
Yeah, and let me thank you again within earshot of anybody tuning in to this podcast. You are a real meaningful and industrious and ambitious, yeah, addition, I think, to the general Stark County art world, art
oh,
milieu. I just appreciate very much what you do, how you do it,
oh,
and how active you are at letting people know, communicating with the energy and the variety. I mean, it's really important in what you're doing. Not that you're showing my work. That's not what makes you important. I'm just really appreciative to be in the context of what you're doing and how you're doing it at Brutalfully Gallery. I mean, it's not just an art gallery at all. It's much more. It's a work center, but it's also a communication center and a
yeah.
very spirited way of staying connected to the public. Another avenue for people to go experience, what art is, and the people who are making it, and the joy it can bring in the making and showing. So, and you're really good at that, and I really,
Oh,
you
thank
know, you know,
you.
you're
Oh,
an agent. You're an
that
important.
means so much to
I mean
me.
that. No, you're an important cultural agent, and it's just a pleasure. I'm glad I followed my heart in asking you, like, hey,
Oh.
can I be part of this wall, part of that, what you're doing?
No, I'm glad you
So,
did. I know sometimes artists are very hesitant to self-promote, and I'm trying to get that narrative
well,
changed and getting people to be a little braver to
yeah,
say, I would love someone to see my work. And
yeah.
that's exactly what I'm so glad that you did because I don't know if they feel offended if I'm like, I want to show your work, would you? And then it's like, what are you asking me to do? So
Well,
if you felt comfortable enough to approach me and ask me, that makes me so happy.
part of me it felt awkward. I wondered if like, am I being too forward, or
No.
or too egotistical by
Mm-mm.
just going to somebody, knocking on the door, and say, "Hey, can you show my work?" It's like, well, I do miss showing work because the only other time locally, I don't travel a lot and I don't enter a lot of shows. I simply don't have the time, energy, or wherewithal to handle that kind of logistics. So when there's, juried art shows in Stark County, there's a couple every year. I'll enter those, and you always cross your fingers. It's like
Right.
may or may not get in, that kind of thing. But otherwise, it's having a solo show. it became important to me, and I missed. I mean, the last one I had was at Patina downtown Canton,
Yeah.
and I'm really
Mhm.
appreciative of that. But that's been
Yeah.
like a couple of years, I
Right.
at least 2.5 years or something. I just missed letting people know I'm still active, and I want my art to be appreciated, but um, and
Yes.
so I had to get over my nervousness when I know am I being too bold by going to you the first time we
No.
meet? So, hey, can I put my stuff on that wall?
No, not at all. And I'm glad because maybe someone listening is going to hear this and know that they're much, that's what I want. I want that so much. The year is already booked for this
I,
year, and I have 5 already for next year. It's blowing my mind, Tom.
well, this is good.
I
This
just
is
love
good.
it.
You're a really good link to the art community, but also to the public.
Oh, well, thank
So,
you.
and I don't mind shouting that out to whoever's listening.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time to talk to me and sharing all of this with everyone today. I'm so glad they got to meet you virtually through the episode. And I will make sure everybody has all the links so they can reach out if they would like. So have a
Thanks again.
wonderful day.
You do the same, kiddo. Stay
Thanks.
warm. Be careful in this cold, icy weather.
I know, you too.
Okay.
Bye.